Hello there everybody, Sam Strains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review, this time of a Bachmann locomotive with a real difference. In fact, that is, if you can even call this one a locomotive or an engine. So, I'm not joking, this thing really is completely unlike anything else I've ever looked at. I'll show you it straight away. It is this. It is the Bachmann Wickham trolley. And the first thing that hits you is just the size. Can you believe how tiny this thing is? But the most impressive part about this is that it is an engine or a loco. I'm not 100% sure actually whether that's the right term for it. But the point is it's motorised. It's supposed to move. It's supposed to. That is the hope. As it stands, it hasn't been out of the box yet, so I'm not actually sure I'm actually going to believe that this thing can move forward on its own until I actually see it. I'm not sure I'm going to believe it. But apparently, yes, this is a motorised model, and if that's true, I mean, I've seen them running in videos but never in the flesh, then that is pretty incredible. The other incredible thing about this, of course, is the price. Now, the RRP from Bachmann is £89.95, I believe it is, which I suppose isn't a lot for a loco, but given its size, I suppose that is quite a lot. However, the amazing part is the bargain that you can get these for from Hatton's. So I've included a link in the description. They have these for sale for £55. That is a pretty crazy discount. I was a bit shocked actually. That's what I got mine for anyway, £55. That is a £35 discount. Pretty crazy stuff. So as I say, link in the description. At that price, I'm not 100% sure how long they're going to have these left for, but you know, it's worth checking it and seeing if they've still got some at that point. But for now then, we're going to get this out, the Wickham trolley. Let's see what this is like. As I say, not been out of the box yet, so I'm itching to get this out and try it. Let's do it. Let's find out exactly what this thing is like. So yes, the Wickham trolley, and if I'm not very much mistaken, this model actually represents a couple of firsts for me. So first of all, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that this is the cheapest Bachmann loco I've ever bought, assuming you want to call this a loco. At £55, I can't remember ever having a brand new one for less than that, so I think that is the cheapest, not 100% sure. What I am 100% sure of, though, that this is Bachmann's smallest motorised model that I've ever owned. I think the next smallest being this. This is the Gandhi Dancer, which gave up the Ghost, by the way, quite quickly. This one broke down. But as you can see, I think the motor's actually in this rear sort of wagon here at the back, which makes the Gandhi Dancer considerably larger than it. So yes, a couple of firsts, the Bachmann's cheapest and I think probably Bachmann's smallest as well. So let me show you the end of the box then. Let me just show you what this one is. So this has the product number 32-993, although of course there are one or two different variations if you want to look those up. It's the Wickham trolley car, engineer's yellow with wasp stripes, so that's this version. And again, if you want to see some of the other versions available, that link in the description should help you with that as well. If I flip the box over, you can see there is a brief history of the Wickham trolley, so if you want to pause it and read it if you can, then feel free to, but I will give you a whistle-stop tour of the trolleys and what they're all about in just a second. For the time being though, I think I'm going to get this out and actually hold it in my hands for the first time. I'm just trying to remember whether I've actually seen another one of these in a video or at a train fair or something. I don't think I have. I think my friend Dan might have shown me one once, but apart from that, yeah, I don't think I've ever witnessed one of these before, so this should be interesting. So there we have it, well, what would we call that? The blister pack, there we go. So we'll take a look at that in just a second. Here we go then, let's take a quick look at some of the paperwork. I won't bother showing you all the Collectors Club guff and all of that, but I'll see if there's a, oh wow, yes, there is a diagram, yes. So here we have it, just a small sort of A5 sheet here. You can indeed see that the motor and the whole mechanical assembly is in the little sort of wagon at the back, which is very interesting. I believe the trolley itself then doesn't have any electronics on board. It might have some pickups on board, I suppose, that would make sense. But of course, all of the work is done by the little wagon on the back. So that's quite interesting. And yes, that paperwork just shows you all a bit about running in, spare parts. Unfortunately, I don't believe that these Wickham trolleys are DCC ready or even DCC compatible, because I can't think of a DCC decoder small enough. I suppose if you were very skilled, you could probably add another wagon to the back and try and wire a decoder in there. But strictly speaking, I don't think these things would be hauling much more than just a single wagon with some supplies in the back. So I think you'd be pushing it a bit there, but sure, with a bit of ingenuity, it might be possible. However, I wouldn't like to do it. Right. Well, let's get this out then and find out exactly what this Wickham trolley is like, and I think tiny is going to be the right description for it. Okay, so, well, first of all, there is what appears to be not a detail pack, but a spares pack, I suppose. Now, at a guess, I'm going to say that those are spare traction tyres. So obviously the model runs on traction tyres. Not sure how necessary those are, but at least they've given us some spares. So Bachmann, at least, understand how quickly traction tyres are likely to fail. So at least we've got some spares, or hopefully they are spares. Hopefully we do actually have some fitted to the model. Okay, so let's take this out then and find out just what this is like. Ooh, my word. So, very, very tiny and very, very light. The Wickham trolley itself is very, very light indeed, but the driven car seems to be a little bit more weighty, which is good. I can see underneath it, yes, there are traction tyres fitted. It seems it has only got one driven axle, which I suppose will explain why the traction tyres are necessary. And I believe there are wires going from the trolley to its little wagon, which means that the trolley itself does do some picking up, which is great to hear. Yeah, the wires look a little bit messy, don't they, going between the wagon and the trolley itself, which is a little bit distracting, I suppose, but I don't imagine there was a lot of room for manoeuvre. But yeah, besides that, it really does look like quite an exquisite little model, doesn't it? Very, very tiny. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about these trolleys in real life. And once I have done that, I will show you this thing up close, and then ultimately we'll get it onto the track. And I still don't know whether I believe this thing is actually going to run, but I'm told they do indeed. So this is going to be an interesting one, folks. So let's get to it. So the official name for the Wickham trolley is the Type number 27 Gang and Inspection Trolley, which were produced by Wickham of Ware between 1949 and 1980. Well over 600 units were built during that time, and not just in standard gauge either. Narrow gauge and even broad gauge versions were produced as well. The mechanisms of the trolleys were more similar to automobiles really than locomotives, and they were capable of speeds of about 30 miles an hour, generally not much more above that, sometimes less too on certain parts of the track, especially on points I think. I think they were limited to lower speeds on point work. They were designed chiefly for transporting railway maintenance personnel, but could also be coupled to trailers, as you can see on this example, for movement of materials and goods. Alright, so there she is then, the very tiny but also very impressive Wickham trolley, up close and personal for you. Now yes, true, for your £55 you don't get an awful lot of model for your money. However, just the intricacy of the trolley itself is absolutely mind-blowing really, and yeah, really the fact that a whole mechanism has been engineered into a device so tiny really, really is hugely impressive. So I'm thinking at this point, assuming it does work properly, I think this is well worth the money. Okay, so let's take a look at the trolley itself then. Well, the first thing that catches your eye, of course, is the interior. So let's take a look at that to start with. So as you can see, you've got these benches. I suppose that would be where the personnel would ride. Yes, so I don't know how many would fit on there, perhaps 6. I don't know if there would be any rules as to how many could ride or not, but yes, quite spacious benches. Below which, of course, is the wood panelled floor, or at least some sort of panelled floor there, which is a nice detailed feature. The most impressive part of the interior though, of course, is the controls. So I suppose this would be the area here where the driver would sit. And you can see he's got all of his controls there on a control panel in front of him, and there's also some levers and things, which I assume would be the brakes. And look at this attention to detail. There's even a tiny, well, what appears to be a tiny little toolbox just under the bench there. What a crazy little detail. I didn't notice that actually until just now. Apparently in real life these trolleys would go in either direction, so if they were going backwards I imagine the driver wouldn't have a clue where they were going, and apparently they even carried turntables on board. I was reading on the box, they actually carried an onboard turntable so that they could flip the car around, or the trolley around as it was going along, and change the direction. That is astonishing stuff. I'd love to find out more about that. But either way, as you can see, the interior very, very impressive indeed, and quite spacious as well, I thought. Yes, quite a nice, it's easily the size of sort of a steam locomotive cab, isn't it? So yes, quite spacious, quite comfortable, I suppose. I'd love to have a ride on one. Outside there's quite a bit of paintwork, as you can see, especially on the front end here. You can see we've got the wasp stripes there, which are nicely painted on. You've also got a little grille just there. I assume that would be a grille. I think it is just painted on. A very nice feature is this separately fitted windscreen wiper here. I believe that is actually separately fitted and not just part of the moulding and, you know, been painted. I think that's what's happened there, but I'm not 100% sure. You have got these lamps, which I think are probably the least convincing aspect of the model. Unfortunately, there are no LEDs behind there, and I suppose what would have made this really, really impressive would have been to have proper working lights on it. However, looking at the positioning of those lights, I really have no idea how Bachmann would have ever achieved that, and I assume Bachmann probably felt exactly the same, hence the fact that there are no working lights on this. But yeah, I don't think that's even a complaint, is it really? There's no way really that they could have done that. I don't even know where they would store the resistor for an LED, let alone the LED itself. So yes, I don't think we can complain about that. Something that is quite nice though is these, well, I'm not 100% sure what these are for. Yeah, there's these little ramps anyway. I don't suppose they would be handrails, would they? But either way, they appear to be separately fitted and separately painted, which is pretty cool. And you've also got the step on the side there, which I assume the crew could use to get on and off the trolley, of course. And I suppose you've got the roof as well, which is a different shade of grey, although no other detail on the roof, but I'm sure that's prototypical. You've got some warning signs printed onto the arch of the roof there, and I believe there's also a builder's plate. I think that might be a builder's plate on the, well, what I will call the buffer beam. It's probably not one of those, but very, very tiny it is, and basically illegible, but I'll try and get as close as I can on the camera to see if you can actually read what that says. But that's the trolley. The trailer is relatively well detailed as well. Obviously in real life the trailer would not be a part of the trolley. Quite often I think they would run on their own without the trailer, but the trailer was often used obviously to transport goods to work sites and things. It is incredibly tiny, obviously a lot shorter in height than the trolley itself, and considering that's where the motor is housed and all the gearing for the motor, that is incredibly small, isn't it really? So you've got this static load in the top, which obviously isn't removable because it hides the bulk of the mechanism. But still, that's quite a nicely detailed little piece, not too unrealistic really. And then you've got some moulded details on the sides of the trailer itself, as you can see, which just make the thing look a little bit more detailed. Interestingly, no couplings of any kind on either end of the model, or no NEM pockets. I assume a NEM coupling, if fitted to one of these, would look absolutely ridiculous. But obviously, in real life, they wouldn't be hauling much more than, I think, as I say, just a single trailer. If I'm wrong about that, please do let me know. But yes, obviously, no need to have anything coupled to this. And of course, with only one driven axle, it ain't going to be able to manage much more than just the trolley, is it? So I think that's fair enough. I think if they had have included a NEM pocket or even a NEM coupling on this, I would be, yeah, slating them for it right now. So yes, I can certainly see why they haven't done that. Other than that though, just an incredibly tiny machine. In fact, let me put my finger in the shot. So this whole thing is about the size of one finger. It's just incredible, isn't it? That really, really impressive, and I do love it. You know, I do love the unusual looking engines, and this is certainly that, to the point where you probably couldn't even call it an engine. So with that, let's talk about performance. Let's get it down onto the track and give it its first ever test. I'm looking forward to this. Okay, so there is the tiny Wickham trolley down onto the track, and like I say, I've not tested this yet, so this will be very, very interesting. First of all then, let's talk a little bit about the mechanism. Now obviously on a device this size, on a device this tiny, there's certainly not an awful lot of room to manoeuvre on the mechanism. And I think given all of the restraints and all of the really, really difficult sizings involved with this model, I think Bachmann have done really, really well to actually make this a decent mechanism. So I haven't had this apart yet. Obviously I don't want to be trying to take this thing apart before I give it a try, but just looking at it from the outside, it does look as though it uses all-wheel pickups. So I have seen pickups on the trolley itself, and I think I've seen some on the trailer. I suppose it might be that just the trolley has pickups, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there are some on the trailer. There's an easy test, I suppose, if I lift the trolley up and then try it. If it still works, then it does have pickups on the trolley, sorry, on the trailer. I suppose if I was being really picky, the choice of pickups is a bit strange, because obviously this is never going to be a DCC applicable device. I wonder whether split chassis might have been better, because the size of the pickups on the wheels here are really, really intricately tiny, which might, I suppose, cause problems, but as long as you don't mess around with it too much, I'm sure it will be fine. Other than that, looking at the diagram, it does appear that this uses a coreless motor. Now, obviously, you know my feelings about coreless motors. Generally, they're not great in locomotives. However, it is the best choice for a model like this. Obviously, firstly, because of the size, you ain't going to be able to fit much of a 5-pole skew-wound motor in that little trailer, are you? And obviously, there are coreless motors designed for tiny little model aircraft, which will fit into there quite nicely. And also they're quite efficient things as well. They don't generate too much heat, so you're not going to start seeing this this trailer melting under the massive heat, which is something that I did start to see with my what was it, the Gandhi Dancer. It used to get very, very hot. In fact, it would burn you if you picked it up after running for a period. So yes, coreless motors probably good in a tiny application, but thankfully Bachmann don't use them in the bulk of their range. Okay, well with that then I'm going to stop my waffle and we're going to give this a try. First of all, it's going to try on the main track, and then just here we have the insulated frog of my express points, and that is probably going to kill it because more than half of it will be completely cut off by those express points. Here we go then, folks. Fingers crossed, please. I've got mine crossed. I'm sure I've just seen it move already. I did. And it stopped. So yeah, that's the first thing I noticed. Obviously it might be due to the coreless motor, but it started to move as soon as I gave it some power. I think I'm going to have to give it a nudge. Okay. Let me give it a bit more juice. It's not very happy, folks. Oh, now it's on the express points. Oh, hang on. Right, it's now picked up some speed, so I'm just going to let it run backwards out of shot for a little way, and then we'll run it back in forwards, and hopefully that will just allow it to warm up a little bit. Right, it's coming back, folks. Right, let's try that again, shall we? Obviously, because it's brand new, it hasn't had a chance to actually work in yet. Ah, that's much better. Yeah. So it doesn't look as though it's going to do a crawl. Obviously, it hasn't run in yet, so I don't know. It doesn't seem particularly reliable on the track. Yeah, it does certainly seem to cut out at those slow speeds, though if I do speed it up a touch, it seems to get a lot better. Let's bring it over the express points then, quite slowly. Or as slowly as it will, without cutting out. Well, amazingly, it did that. I wasn't expecting that, that's for sure. Let's try it backwards again. Slow down a bit. Wow. So it manages express points. That, I must say, I was not expecting. So I'm going to set this off forwards then. We will have a look at it run. At it running. And then we'll get some other trains running. Ah, it stopped on the points. Right, let's see how it looks on the layout then. I think you'll be amazed by how tiny it looks. Gosh, that is absolutely minuscule, isn't it? And the quite impressive thing is that she's actually at half speed there, and you'd expect something this size to really race along at half speed, but it doesn't. It's not actually all that fast. So that's good. Another thing is it's extremely quiet. I very much doubt, in fact, that you will hear any noise at all from this over the microphone. Very little motor noise. It really is just the clickety-clack of the wheels on the fish plates, on the joins. Very little sound at all. So I get the impression that it's never going to be an amazing crawler. However, it is decently smooth, which must be said. So I'm going to leave this to run for a little while longer. I'll give it its full running in period, and after that we will come back and try that slow speed again and see if it's improved at all. Okay, so there we go, that is nicely run in. It didn't go without a hitch. It got to about 20 minutes into the running in period, and it kept stopping every 10 seconds, and I had to take it off and clean the wheels. Now that is because the track hasn't been cleaned for a few days. I'm at the end of the week filming this and it's ready for another clean, so that might be partly to blame, but also I think it is quite sensitive to dirt just due to the size of the wheels and to the low weight. Obviously there's not a lot of force pushing down on the rails, so yes, that's not the best thing in the world for electrical contact, but as long as the track and wheels are kept clean, it seems to be a reasonable performer. So now that it's had a chance to run in, let's see if this can do a crawl, shall we? I tell you what, that is an awful lot better, isn't it? That is an awful lot better. It's not terribly smooth, but I think just given the mechanism, the nature of the mechanism on this, it's pretty astonishing that it works at all, to be honest with you. I've noticed that it does still cut out occasionally on certain curves. It will do a few laps and be absolutely fine and then cut out and it needs a nudge. That might just be the fact that it's still new, it might be, or it might be that it's a bit oversensitive, as I say, to dirty track. Although the track isn't dirty, I pride myself on keeping clean track, but yeah, it's the dirtiest my track gets. It'll be clean. I'll be cleaning it this afternoon, in fact, so yes, perhaps it's not the best time to have done this, but as you can see, yeah, that crawl is fantastic. It does, there we are, you see, that's an example of it cutting out. It does that quite often, and then it needs a push. But other than that, yeah, absolutely fantastic. So let's keep it going then, let's watch it keep going, and I'll show you what else is going to be running. Okay, so I thought, well, it's a difficult theme, isn't it, to follow, so I've gone with track maintenance as a general theme, and the loco I've just started has cut out immediately. There we go, that's fixed it. Apologies for the thump. So this is the Bachmann 08 shunter, which has got some counterfeit pickups I put into it. Oh, goodness sake. But it's not the shunter that I wanted to show, it was the crane that it's hauling. So there we go, hopefully it's coming into shot now. Been a long while since I've showed this crane, so there it is. And hopefully the 08 will get through the running session, hopefully. And then for the rest of the theme, I've just gone with small locomotives, very tiny, unusual locomotives, and here's one of them now. It's the Model Rail Sentinel, probably one of the smallest and most unusual of them all, so that one has to run. And keep an eye on the sidings, see which other engines you can spot, and let me know in the comments which ones you see. Okay, well, let's catch up with the Wickham trolley and see how it looks. Oh, talk of the devil, here it comes now into the back of the shot. I absolutely love it, I have to say. I love how unusual it is, and I also love how well it works. So, if you're looking to get your 00 gauge minions to go out onto your model railway and do some track maintenance or, I don't know, some build projects perhaps, then you need to get yourself one of these. It saves them having to walk. You can load them onto there and send them anywhere on the layout you like. Then they'll get off and do their work. And it's very effective too. There we go, the 08 shunter seems to have gotten started a bit now. Yeah, it's working better. Oh, it smells of burning though. That one hasn't run for ages. I bet there's yeah, some oil to burn off on there. And there we have the Wickham trolley, and you can see how tiny, absolutely tiny it is in comparison. I reckon technically this has to be the smallest passenger train I ever have, or possibly even ever will run on this model railway. The size has just blown me away. And I think also we have to say hats off to Bachmann for this, because this really is a feat of model engineering, being able to motorise something just as absolutely farcically tiny as this. So here are some of my ratings then for the very impressive Bachmann Wickham trolley. Level of detail then, I've given this a 4-star. In fact though, the level of detail was very, very impressive, particularly the interior detail of course. The only thing that let it down for me was the fact that the light looked so unconvincing on the front and back of the trolley. Just a minor thing, but it just stopped me from giving it a full marks. As I said earlier on, yes, there was no way to put LEDs in there, but at least some translucent plastic might have made it look a little bit more realistic. But apart from that, very, very impressive. The performance isn't too bad either. It's not really capable of doing a crawl, or rather it is. It just seems to cut out quite easily at the very slowest of speeds. And also you tend to have to clean the wheels quite often. I've already had to do it once because it just sort of got messed up and stopped working, kept cutting out. So yes, it's not too bad though. The performance is very good, it is very quiet and very smooth, and it does what it's supposed to, I would say. So 4-star on the performance, not perfect, but certainly adequate at the very least. The mechanism then is a 4 out of 5. Yes, it is all-wheel pickup, which is pretty great. Not a big fan of the coreless motors, but I think necessity meant that there was no other option for that, really. I just think the way that the model picks up could have been a little bit better. I think it ought to have been a more sort of split chassis inspired design to improve reliability, really, because yes, you do get quite a bit of cutting out with this. Whether it is the pickups or not that are to blame, I'm not sure, but it seems to be. The quality though is very, very good. I've given it a 5-star. It's very well built. The separately fitted detail is fitted sturdily. and it's well painted to a high standard, so can't really fault the quality at all. The value then, I think £89.95 is pushing it a bit. I don't think I'd be paying that for this, but for the Hatton's price of £55, I think that's much better. In fact, that price alone is worth 5-star. A mixture of the two, I'm going to give it 4, so that's very good indeed. Overall then, 8.38 out of 10, not a bad score really. I think that is pretty good. Is it in the top 10? Ooh, just, there we go. 10th, just above the Hornby Hall class and below the Bachmann Midland Marvel. So there you are then folks, I hope you enjoyed this half as much as I did. It really is such an unusual model, and as I say, if you love tiny little things that are sure to turn any head, then you know it's difficult to resist this sort of thing. And if you want to pick one up while they are still so cheap, as I say, there is a link in the description. For 55 quid, I reckon this is a pretty decent bargain. For now though, thank you very much for watching, thank you for your company as always, and I will see you all very, very soon. Cheers everybody, take care.